In today's video, I'm going to show you how to avoid freezing during your interview. Now, you would imagine that freezing during an interview can be a problem. And the reality is that it is. Freezing is common. It's probably more common than you think. So first, let's talk about why do people freeze during the interview? You would imagine that it's just like a conversation. But in reality, interviews cause a lot of stress. And some of the reasons why people freeze is because they become overwhelmed during the interview. You start sweating. You start thinking ahead of possible questions that they might ask you. You start thinking about whether you answered the question correctly or not. Or you might not even be prepared for the interview. All those things cause freezing during the interview. And it's very stressful. One strategy that I recommend is that when they ask you a question, repeat the question. Or say, "That's a very good question." By using a power phrase or a power pause, it actually allows you to think about the question before you answer it. Because what you don't want to do is start talking right away, because you might not even be answering the question. The other thing is that you need some pause time. Those few seconds can help you do extremely well during the interview. Another strategy is use a pivot phrase. For example, what I have experienced is, what I've learned is, having a pivot phrase or a few pivot phrases in your tools kit can actually help you overcome some of the freezing situations. The other thing is that when you're interviewing, or at least preparing for the interview, don't script all your answers. If you script all your responses and you try to memorize them, you're actually causing a lot more unnecessary stress. So writing all the responses ahead of time is actually very stressful. What I would recommend instead is create some bullet points. So instead of memorizing all the complete responses, you only have certain bullet points that you have to remember. Lastly, make sure you remain calm. The hardest thing during an interview is to remain calm. You might have all the answers. You might actually be well prepared for it. But just entering the room during the interview and sitting down and being in front of maybe 5 to 7 people, or maybe even 10 people, causes a lot of stress and anxiety. So remain calm, control your breathing, think about some positive things, and also remember, if you prepared ahead of time, you've got this. Just remain calm. Now, I know that it sounds a lot easier than it might be. Being in those situations is actually very stressful. So try to remain calm. And lastly, make sure you practice. And by practice, I mean do it more than once. I would suggest maybe a week to 2 weeks or even 3 weeks. Start practicing your interview. Go in front of the mirror. Look at how you respond to questions. Record yourself. Because oftentimes what we say, how we think we sound and how we actually sound are two different things. But if you practice, and you practice in front of the mirror or maybe even recording, it actually is very helpful. So it takes some time to get good at interviewing. Make sure you click follow or subscribe for more real talk on how to interview. This is Dr. Gonzalo Avila. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.